Hello and welcome back to another episode of Taking Control of Cancer, the podcast brought to you by the North East London Cancer Alliance. I'm Steve Bland, and this is another one of our special news episodes where we take a look at the ways in which cancer is making the news in a particular month. And in this month, we're talking about April 2026. We're coming to the end of April now. And I'm joined as ever by the Managing Director of the Alliance, Femi Odewale. Hello, Femi.
Hi, Steve. Hi, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
Actually, I know how you're doing, Femi. I know you've had a bit of a cold.
Bit of a cold, so a bit bunged up, a bit slow with it today, but we're gonna get through. I mean,
We are going to get through as us chaps manfully do. We heroically battle on. Listen, Femi. April is Bowel Cancer Awareness Month. We've done loads on bowel cancer in the podcast. We did a couple of episodes quite recently. We talked about bowel screening. We talked about colonoscopies. We talked about the technique for collecting your bowel sample, your poo sample. But there's a few bits of news to talk about specifically. The first one I want to talk about is a story of a chap called Joel. And Joel's story is on the North East London Cancer Alliance website. And Joel is urging people to complete their bowel screening test because he did, even though he had no symptoms. He completed a screening test 5 years ago, and he's hopefully coming to the end of his treatment because the test diagnosed stage 2 bowel cancer. And it's just another example, Femi, isn't it, of the importance of taking the test. And it's something we'll come on to with the next story, but the importance of taking your test.
yeah. I mean, I say it every time we have this conversation. It's so important to know the signs and symptoms.
Yeah.
And if you don't have symptoms, when those tests come through, take them.
Yeah.
Save your life.
You're so lucky, aren't you, if you qualify for a screening
Yeah.
program for any kind of cancer. We know there aren't too many screening programs available. And if you qualify for one, I feel like you're obliged on behalf of all the people that don't, to actually do it. And this actually brings us really nicely onto the second story. It's about a former Olympian, Ewan Thomas, absolute legend of the 400 meters, and a really interesting, entertaining character. But he put a piece on his Instagram, a little Instagram story a couple of weeks ago, talking about how he did a bowel cancer screen. He'd left the home testing kit just sitting in a drawer in his house for a couple of years. He'd ignored a couple of little, mild symptoms that he had, and he shared this story on social media. I remember watching it a couple of weeks ago, and he's spoken to BBC South Today. But he was diagnosed with some cancerous cells in his bowel as a result of this test. And again, similar point to the first one, but just another example of somebody, with a bit of profile and a bit of a following. And it makes a big impact, doesn't it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I know for us men, we're like, oh God, is it hygienic? Is it something that is just going to be really uncomfortable? It's really an easy, pain-free test to do in the comfort of your own home. So
Yeah.
everything you need is inside that, it's inside the pack that you get. And on top of that, it's confidential, it's hygienic. It's really, really, dare I say it, is pretty straightforward. And that pretty straightforward test can just simply save your life. But yeah, I mean, we love it when, celebrities, really talk about their experiences and really promote this.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? And as I said before, as I said a couple of minutes ago, we do have an episode on the collection of your poo sample, or a section of an episode on the collection of your poo sample. There are many techniques you can use, Femi. I wasn't aware of all the techniques, but there are many techniques. So if that's your barrier, if you're not sure how to collect your sample, if that's what you're worried about, we have an episode for you. Go back and listen to our bowel screening episode. Our final bowel cancer story of the day, Femi, is one that I love, and it's very close to my heart. So Dame Deborah James, as I'm sure everyone would know, was my co-host on You Mean the Big C, the BBC podcast about cancer. Before she died, she set up the Bowel Babe Fund for Cancer Research. Really, really amazing fund that she was so passionate about in the last month or two of her life. It's now raised £20 million.
Yeah.
and loads and loads of coverage about this. Prince William praised what he called was an incredible milestone. He was the one who actually went to her house and bestowed the damehood on her in the last few days of her life. And it's Deb is you're never far from my thoughts. I'm actually going down to London next week to a special breakfast for the Balbo Fund of supporters and ambassadors for the fund because they're celebrating this landmark of £20 million, and it's just an extraordinary thing that even a number of years after Deb died, she's still making that impact.
Yeah, and again, she's one of the the first people to really start. Well, not the first people, but she is a massive promoter of the experiences that she's gone through. And look at that; that's such a remarkable kind of amount to have raised. 20 million.
It's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Massive. And what she was really passionate about research and about not saying that all cancer charities do an incredible job, but not all of them are focused on research. And I think it's very specific to cancer research, and also what she wanted her Balbabe Fund to be, to fund really important research projects.
Yeah.
And I think that's what her family have done an incredible job. And we're hoping to actually speak to her parents in a future episode of this podcast. I need to catch up with them because what her family have done, her parents, her brother and sister Ben and Sarah, her husband Seb, is really drilled down on the projects that they know that she would have wanted to fund. So everything is just based on so honestly, and it was so much integrity what she would have wanted. And I think she'd be so chuffed with the work that they've done in her name since she died. It's extraordinary. She was an extraordinary woman, and continues to be, even what's coming up to 4 years after she died. It was 4 years in June. So extraordinary. £20 million. I'm going to take the lead on the next one, actually, Femi.
Go ahead.
As well, because this is another one that's really close to my heart. So, as I think I've mentioned on this podcast before, I do a lot of work with Sale Sharks Rugby Club and across the men's and women's team. The women play in a league called the Premiership Women's Rugby, the PWR. It's the biggest, the most top level of English women's rugby. And they launched a partnership at the start of the season with Breast Cancer Now, and they've announced in April there's going to be a big pink weekend in at the end of May. So fixtures across that weekend, round 17 of the PWR, the 29th to the 31st of May, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, are going to be part of this big pink weekend. Every match across the league that weekend will be dedicated to supporting Breast Cancer Now. Everyone attending games will be wearing pink. It's going to be massive. We actually, at the start of the season, we did ours because we've actually got a bye weekend that weekend. So we're not playing, but we've got Sales away kit is pink. So we did our own one at the start of the season to make up for the one we're going to miss towards the end. But it's it's a brilliant initiative, and I think we've done a ton of stuff, haven't we, with the Alliance, with this podcast, all about early diagnosis of breast cancer.
Yeah, no, we really have. I mean, and for our areas, we have 1,500 cases of breast cancers that are diagnosed per year in North East London. So it is literally the second most common cancers diagnosed after skin cancer. So again, it is absolutely an amazing initiative to raise awareness, and I think it's going to go. It's you can never get enough of really raising awareness. You can't, and this is a phenomenal way of doing so. So amazing.
It's mega, and I think with women's rugby, it had a big lift-off moment in September when the women won the World Cup. Red Roses won the World Cup, and it's just shone. A partnership like this has got real potential. I know I've done a lot of work in the past with Andrew Strauss and his Red for Ruth. They turn Lords red. you raise lots of money for their foundation. That's all around lung cancer and also counselling for children. But yeah, this is brilliant. Um, big pink weekend, breast cancer now. The PWR. If you've got um, a local women's rugby club, I'm thinking probably Saracens for Northeast London.
Mm.
Yeah, Saracens are in North London. You get yourself down there the weekend of the 29th, 30th, and 31st of May. Support the league, support the girls playing, and support the charity. It's a brilliant thing. We released an episode of the podcast last week, Femi. I don't know if you had a chance to listen, all about going back to work. And it was with Cancer Support UK, and a chap called Mark Geimer came and chatted to myself and Sarita, all about the challenges of somebody with cancer going back to work, the challenges maybe the employers have as well. How they work with companies to help create an environment where somebody's confident and happy enough to go back. There's a story actually out at the moment from a piece of work that Aviva, the insurance company, have done. And it talks about, while many people are more open to discussing cancer, there's a clear communication gap that still exists in the workplace. And it's interesting, isn't it, that still probably we're not, for lots of different reasons, we're not confident talking about cancer with our employers or our colleagues.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, I would definitely ask everyone to listen to that podcast. But I mean, the results are not really surprising. I mean, when I think about it, even in our workplace, apart from obviously for us because we work in the space of cancer, but when I worked in other spaces, how often do people really talk about cancer? Um, it is something that we do need to raise some awareness about. I think it's really important. So again, whilst the survey focuses on being comfortable in discussing symptoms, there are also other challenges that comes in taking time off, and it's that people don't want people to know, or people might. It's just a difficult conversation to be
Yeah.
having. You need to take time off, especially over a long period of time. So I can see how people can be uncomfortable, don't necessarily want to talk about it. Um, I don't perhaps want to be treated like differently as a
Yeah.
consequence.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's so much going on here, isn't there? Because I think
Mhm.
you can understand, as we got into with Mark in the episode of the podcast, if you've got symptoms, if you're concerned, you might be taking time off. If you work for a small company, maybe you'd be concerned about the impact. Have they got to backfill? Are they going to want to keep me? If you're on work on a contract basis, is it going to be difficult to get another contract? This bit of research says 20% of people would tell someone as soon as they had a symptom that could be cancer, and a third would wait until they'd seen their GP. But that picture changes in the workplace. 1 in 12, so 8% of workers said they'd feel comfortable talking to their employer if they had a symptom that could be cancer related. So you've got a big gap in,
Massive.
and maybe that's to do with the fact that we don't necessarily feel like our colleagues are our friends.
Mhm.
Is there something there? But I think there is a lot more. And as I say, we got into this with Mark of just the way that probably people feel like they'll be perceived, or the way that people feel like they could be treated by an employer that maybe isn't set up to deal with somebody having cancer.
Yeah, but also when you think about it, and I know, like, I'm just as we're talking, I mean, more thoughts are coming to my mind. It's a time where, like, a thousand things is just going through your mind. I,
Yeah,
I don't know what it's like exactly, but when talking to our, kind of our patients, our patient rep, it's that whole, like, the last thing that you need to think about is perhaps not being able to work and provide. People have commitments, and they need the income. They need the income to help support themselves, their families, and sometimes that could just be really, really daunting.
mm,
And I can imagine some people could be scared to just have that conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tricky one. Um, the last thing I want to talk about is it's a piece of research actually from the States, from Harvard University. It's about a new blood test that could change the outlook for one of the deadliest cancers. So pancreatic cancer. We did an episode with Pancreatic Cancer UK a few weeks back, maybe even a couple of months ago. Really, really interesting cancer that I don't think gets a lot of attention that it needs. But this 4-marker test was able to spot pancreatic cancer in over 90% of cases, and it's an early stage test, a blood test. I'm gonna try and pronounce something here. Designed to identify pancreatic ductal adenocarcinoma,
Perfect.
one of the most lethal types of cancer. I think because pancreatic cancer is often only discovered after it's advanced, which obviously makes treatment options a lot more reduced, and it's got a really poor prognosis. So anything that can we talk about this a lot, don't we? How do we get to people earlier? So we're spotting cancers early. We're identifying what people have got a lot earlier, so we can get them into treatment. It's massively important.
Huge, especially for some of these. I mean, it's only 10% of patients that live longer than 5 years after a diagnosis of this cancer.
That's
So
terrible,
it's
isn't it?
huge. I mean, again, I was listening to another podcast a while ago. I won't mention which podcast it is, but I was listening to another podcast a while. Well, actually, it's one of these kind of longevity podcasts, and it just say with all of the technology that are being created to manage, to treat, to cure cancer, like the next, between now and the next 10 years is going to be, you're just going to continue to see some of these massive breakthroughs. So, it is quite promising and quite exciting to see that actually there are now starting to be much more kind of treatment and management for such a very, for a disease that is what I consider one of the largest diseases.
Yeah. And
So
what a difference that'll make as well to
massive.
a cancer that has no reliable screening tool currently.
Mm,
If all of a sudden you could potentially get something that catches 90%, or even if it's much less than that,
yeah,
at an early stage, it's going to shift the dial massively, isn't it?
massively. Yeah.
It's a great thing, a wonderful thing. So we'll keep an eye on that, and yeah, check it out as it becomes more of a thing. That's it, Femi. I will let you go back to your sick bed. We're recording this on the 27th of April. We've got a big day on Wednesday. The strategy is being released, so stay tuned for episodes about the workplace strategy, the equalities strategy, and the AI strategy, which people at the Alliance have been working on really hard. And we'll tell you all about those in our next episodes. Exciting though.
It is exciting. Can't wait for us to hear all the recordings or be a part of it.
It's going to be fantastic. You'll be a big part of it, Femi. Don't you worry. I'll be grabbing you an awful lot on Wednesday. Even if you're rolling there on your sick bed, I'll still be grabbing you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Femi, and thank you to everyone for listening. Keep downloading, keep subscribing, keep listening to everything we're doing. Loads of episodes out on all different cancer types, but also the things we've been talking about today, the workplace one, the bowel cancer, the colonoscopies, bowel cancer screening, loads of stuff on there in previous episodes, and we will see you in the next one.
Brilliant.
Cheers. Bye-bye.